Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Brock and Ellis, up in New York. I am Mark Hayes, located in Atlanta. We are ATLians down here. All right, Brock, let's get right to it. A yucky Friday yesterday. The spending bill passes through Congress, and it appears that the messaging is way off, and Democrats have no idea how to read the room.
Yeah, they're just, certainly a portion of them just absolutely missing the mark. Beyond, the 24-hour fallout is, I think Schumer, there's whispers of Schumer being unseated as Senate Minority Leader. I'm like, why are there whispers? Like, this should be a loud roar. What people senators are afraid to say, hey, he's not our leader anymore. That's not the direction we want to go. But it was a step back for messaging because we're just lost in the dark on what is going to resonate with the American people, even though the
Sure.
American people are screaming and yelling to their leaders exactly what they want to see and hear. But the leaders are still pretending like there's this huge uncertainty. So I don't know, as a consultants, like how are they missing the mark?
Right. You know what the left is yelling? Fight, fight, fight. Remember the old Trump thing from the fake assassination plot? Fight, fight, fight. That's what people on the left are yelling. Indivisible.org answering the call. I just signed up, getting their newsletter on a regular basis, checking the funds to see if I can make it to Washington, D.C. on April 5th. And they're promising, to get a quite a turnout. Now, they've been mobilizing folks all over the country.
Yeah.
So, like that, like we talked about last night, that Asheville town hall that went off the rails for that Republican Congressman Edwards, hey, they told you not to do it. And then you didn't want to hear what people had to say. So you had a veteran kicked out of a town hall. How did the
Yeah.
Democrats not see this and say to themselves, okay, maybe we should listen to our constituency? But I mean, Hakeem Jeffries was able to hold the line, right? He presented a unified front, kept all the votes on the blue side of the ledger. Senate is another story. Chuck Schumer's out. As far as I know, his book tour stops are still scheduled for next week in Los Angeles. So that's
Oh
a good
my
thing, Chuck. What
God.
the fuck,
Like
Chuck?
that's what he's doing. That's his priority. His priority right now is to go talk about some book he wrote. I have no idea if it's about, I don't know who the fucking buyer is for that book. Right.
Right.
But can you possibly believe that instead of going out talking to constituents, he's trying to pitch his book, right?
Telling
To
him,
knock down some extra sales on the side. I mean, that's just
yep.
like salt on the wound of the idiocy that we got and the softness that we got from Schumer. So that's going to be a train wreck because there's no doubt he's going to get protests everywhere and he's just going to look like a fool running around trying to talk about his book at the local Barnes and Noble, right? I mean,
No doubt.
that's just bizarre and just a guy who's lost or just so comfortable in his seat that he doesn't even hear the cries of the people.
And I think that's the problem, bro. Think about how long Mr. Schumer's been in office, right? I mean, he's a fossil when it comes to the ability to even understand what 30s and 40 somethings are going through
Yeah,
right now.
he's just
Much less us,
not even
right? Who are
close.
winding down our careers and looking forward to Social Security benefits,
So
right?
This April 5th series of protests at Indivisible, because I haven't seen it yet. The announcement of it yet. Now, in the DC one, which I assume will be hope to be the biggest of all of them, who
Right,
is there anyone aligned to speak? Like, what is the protest? Is it to meet somewhere and march somewhere? Are they going to set up a microphone and see who shows up and talks? But like, once again, who's the not the hey, maybe the whole movement's going to be totally grassroots and leaderless. That's
right,
rare. Usually leaders emerge. Like, is there
right.
anyone lined up to
Now,
deliver a message along with the protest?
I may have missed that portion of the interview, but I saw Ezra Levin on, and he was talking about, all the different issues that Americans are facing. So, this may be the opportunity, though, even if a leader does not emerge from this opportunity, this may be the chance that you and I have been talking about to bring everybody together arm in arm, right? We're talking about voting rights. We're talking about bodily autonomy. We are talking about the rights of people to due process. We're talking about immigration. We're talking about the economy. We're talking about it all because it all affects us. Hey, and if you're traveling abroad anytime soon, hey, wear a helmet because people are going to be throwing shit at you.
People hate us. I mean, you got to feel awkward being in Europe right now if you were to travel to Europe right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're having this. We'll have 3 weeks headed into it where maybe some messaging can emerge. We sit here and say, okay, Bernie doing great things. He's roped in AOC. They're doing the barnstorming tour. They're the fight the oligarchs message, right? They found a opposition they want to go after. It's Bernie's economic message now on steroids that he's been chirping about for 40 years. But his
Right.
time has come and it's resonating because now Doji has hurt so many white people that more and more of them want to be in the room and listen to what Bernie has to say. That's great. Tim Walz is going to run around and go to red states. Great. He's going to hit on other messages because he has a little more of a sensibility. But our take. We want to hear the multiracial, multicultural, gender equality, pro LGBT, pro immigrant. Let's stop being afraid to say that we're a nation of immigrants and that we need immigrants, and immigrants are what makes the country great. It just has to be done right. Pro immigration doesn't mean open borders, doesn't mean it's just a fucking fiesta, people flying back and forth like there's no rules. Immigration doesn't
Right.
mean no rules, right? We've let the right hijack these issues. What I'm, like to call now the living room issues, not just the kitchen table issues. That we since Clinton won with Carville and it was the economy stupid. The left has always felt like, oh, we can only talk about economic issues. Climate change.
Right.
Oh, it has to be a jobs program. Okay, we can't just save the planet. We can't just have fresher air and cleaner water. Everything has to be tied to a job because we thought everything had to be about economics because all anyone voted on were those quote kitchen tables issues, aka economic. But what about
Right.
all the things that are discussed in the living room that the left has walked away from and basically been afraid to fight a culture war because they get tagged as woke and then they run away from the fight and the culture and the radical right wins another culture war and therefore the
Right.
country keeps moving to the right when the mentality of the people is really moving to the left. So let's talk
Right.
about gender equality. Let's talk about women's bodily autonomy, like you said. No one talks about that over dinner, right? That's a
Right.
living room issue. Racism,
Right.
living room issue. Let's not just deliver one side of the message. It has to be economics and social issues, and it has to be white and faces of white people and faces of people of color, men and women, and it's got to be this coalition. And the message
Right.
has to be coalesced around it. That's still, to me, I look for it every day. I
Right.
still don't find it.
Right. And race is a great example of a living room issue, Brock, because the living room is the perfect place to have the conversation about how we should treat each other as human beings with dignity and how we should have just a humane approach to our neighbors and our friends and our families. Like I said, I have a biracial granddaughter and I couldn't love her possibly anymore. But what that reminds me is that my wife and I did a hell of a job raising our kids to see people as people and to like who they like and love who they love. Right. And if we have to have a conversation about the 12 transgender athletes playing NCAA sports, well, we can do that in the living room too, right? Because they're people too. And humanity should be the lesson of the day, not trying to find the things that separate us, but the things that bring us together and the things that bring us closer as human beings and as good people. I am thankful every day for my parents that grew up and were reared in the segregated South for not teaching me how to hate those that hated them through their most formative years, through high school, college. right? The early years of their professions, right? The situations that affected them most, especially their pocketbooks. When my dad graduated college, he thought he had two choices, preach or teach. He wanted to be a teacher, so he came north looking for opportunity, right? Those were kind of sort of kitchen table issues back then, right? Because he and my mom were trying to figure out how to make it work. How are we going to support a family? So, I am with you when you say let's move the conversation to the living room. Let's have those conversations. And I don't know why the Democrats don't get it. They can't read the room.
I think America's ready for it.
They
You
got,
see even
gotta
these
be.
white people screaming and yelling. Yeah, they're mad because something's being taken away from them.
Right.
But hey, that vet who's getting health care and the nurses are being taken away, and now he's not going to get the same health care that he was getting before because they gutted the VA, right? So now that guy's probably the most he might have been narrow-minded before, but now he's like, now you say, now you see what they've been doing in black communities for your entire life, stripping
Exactly.
stripping resources away from them, making it harder for them to have the quality of life that they had either fought for or earned or deserved, right? And they're always getting things stripped away. Why is Doji cutting? What does it mean to cut DEI? It just
Right.
means to give less opportunities to
Exactly.
people who look different, whether it be women or black people or disabled. Like, why are we stripping opportunities away from people in the land of opportunity? So I just feel like now that so many people are being hurt and Trump is he's just such an a-hole that I
Yeah.
think that he's kind of in due to the pain he's inflicting on so many people. He's making it easier for people to come together across lines they normally wouldn't because everybody's in pain.
Well, think about what you're seeing on social media. I'm seeing a lot of videos from the Hispanic community and from the white community where people have lost opportunities, jobs, etc., businesses, and people are saying, "Wow, now I get what black folks were talking about." And where are they now? Well, hey, black folks been trying to tell you this. It's just like police brutality. Black folks been telling you this stuff been going on since we could tell you and folks didn't believe it. That's why blacks are kind of low key right now. I saw an interesting video on YouTube yesterday where the gentleman was talking about how black folks were going to be, kind of in the back of the movement and that it needed to be more upfront by those who are just now learning what it feels like to lose opportunities and to lose business opportunities and basically your status, right? You were shoved out the door, right? Some of these people were shoved out the door after being fully successful. We talked about this, being fully successful in
Yeah.
their performance reviews, and they got thrown out like last week's garbage. And so now they're finding out what that feels like, and they don't like it. And
Yeah,
they
well,
don't.
Mark, when we started the first podcast, remember one of the concerns I was expressing sort of was like, I'm worried about black women. 92% of them voted for Kamala. She lost, and now they're like, F it, don't come to us to lead this anti-Trump movement. And I was always saying white people have to be out front because black people are just kind of pissed off and tired. And you're like,
Yep.
hey, if they're out front of the march, the bullets are gonna fly. So maybe
Hell
enough
yeah.
where MAGA may have fucked up is they may have inflicted too much pain on too many white people and kind of
Mhm.
woke up some white people who like were oblivious to shit, who are now finally getting themselves kind of punched in the nose and going, wow, now I see what a punch in the nose feels like.
Right.
Here's just like another random example. The Muslim community, right? I don't
Mm.
know how strong they felt about the immigration thing and Latinos getting rounded up by ICE and sent to Gitmo, which they now shut down. But
Right.
now a whole bunch of Muslims are getting rounded up because they protested well
Right.
within their rights. But now they're getting rounded up and thrown in detention centers, like right next to the Latinos who gotten rounded up. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, people kind of can empathize with that other because in a way, because they're all being mistreated. right? And it's sort of like so many of us are being mistreated in America. Maybe we're willing to have some conversations we weren't willing to
Finally,
have before. Finally,
finally.
maybe
And Brock, you and I are old enough to remember when they were rounding up Muslims after 9/11, right? I mean, and people were still saying, where's their due process? Where are their rights? I mean, I remember 60 Minutes and those folks going to Gitmo to see how long people were being held there, what kind of constitutional protections they had, what kind of due process were they getting? And the answer was none, none, and none.
and none. Yeah, it's funny they shut down Gitmo so quick. 60 Minutes couldn't even do a feature
Didn't
on.
even get there. Didn't even
Right,
have time.
it lasted like a month. Right off the bat, I was kind of like, how are they going to feed 30,000 people? Right, like what are they going to do? Ship down like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? It's not like there's a general store down the street in Cuba, right,
Right,
for 30,000 people. But anyway, that was the idiocy of the program, not just the ultimate goal of the whitening of America. That was just, once again, the poor execution of a shitty plan.
right,
But there's throwing so many shitty plans out there. Like just today, I think the Voice of America got shut down, and some other, soft power
right.
elements of the U.S. international relations got shut down,
Well,
and we're not going to influence the world in the same way.
right. But let's look at this, Brock, because this is a glimmer of hope. The pressure campaigns work, right? We saw the pressure campaign at the Tesla dealership in New York City, closed permanently. I saw a little blurb on that today. I want to go recheck it and make sure it's actually happening, right? Because I couldn't be more excited. We saw the pressure campaign in Haddon Township, New Jersey, right outside of Philly, where the owner of New Jersey Kebab, and I can't think of her name. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. But she had been taken away 2 weeks ago from her family. Amin Eminye was taken away from her family. And so folks in that community, black, white, yellow, green, orange, cats, dogs, all rallied at press conferences, making sandwiches for each other. They were writing and getting letters notarized. The media coverage was amazing on it, and the pressure worked. 2 weeks later, this young lady is back home, wanted to spend some time with her children and her grandchildren and get right back to work at Jersey Kebab because she came here legally, wants to stay legally. And the mayor of that little township said this family did not deserve this. Right? So, why are we haphazardly snatching good members, productive members of the community, but yet, we pardoned 1,500 lunatics who caused the death of police officers, smeared feces on our walls, stole state secrets. Remember the young lady that stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop and tried to sell it to the Russians? Like, she was in and out in a matter of months. How does the law only work for those who look like this? But yet people who are wearing a hijab, must be taken away from their family and put in ICE detention for weeks at a time until we can sort out what happened here. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
the inhumanity, the anger. Trump has got to be the angriest white guy in America, bro.
no,
Like I
he's a
gotta be.
lunatic. That speech at DOJ, and he goes over to Department of
Damn.
Justice and just talks about all the fucking people he wants to go after, and it's just crazy and insane. And you can't keep keep looking at it and trying to act like there's a strategy behind everything. He's just a raving lunatic
Right.
with like massive mental issues who just kind of hates to hate because he doesn't have like the empathy chip within his body. So like he's just a fucked up guy. We're the fucked up ones for putting him into a position of power, and now we're trying to navigate an entire country around the lunacy of this one person. But the problem still is, I know you gave a glimmer of hope, is that there's such a wave of negative actions going on that the
Right.
fight has to be so constant everywhere, all the time, on every topic, right?
Right.
It's got to be in the courts, it's got to be in the court of public opinion, it's got to be on the streets, it's got to be in the press. At some point the business world has to, like, stop just rolling over in fear that Trump's going to yell at them or tweet about them, and, like, be better citizens.
Yeah.
And we're just going to need more from everybody, because it's such a wave. It's such a wave of destruction that's going on. I mean,
And
April
that's
5th sounds
right.
great, but it feels far away. I just looked at the
I
calendar. I'm
know.
like, okay, it's the 15th. Geez, that's another, like, 21, 22 days. Like, what's going to
Right.
happen between now and then?
Right. Who knows? And the other thing that just sparkles and emanates from, the Trump band, the loonies, is, the ineptitude, right? Ed Martin, this so-called uh, uh, deputy attorney general, sending out, these Dear Eugene letters. Did you see the letter Eugene Vindman got? And, basically requesting information on his personal finances, and that, he was now a target of an investigation. And, on a whole, I mean, they're literally trying to make up cases like they tried to indict Schumer, right? Just make something up and sign it. And people won't do it. People are resigning, saying, hey, I'm not making up criminal cases against lawmakers and elected officials. Are you out of your mind? Not only that, these letters they're sending out look like they're written in crayon, full of grammatical errors, typos. They're just not good at any of this, much less governing, because they don't know how it works. Pam Bondi has done nothing productive since she's taken the reins except pick up a check, right? And now she's trying to get her brother positioned to take over the DC bar, right? So any complaints that come before the DC bar, he can make them go away. Like it's all about the crime. They just keep criming and criming,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
the corruption's astounding.
Oh, it's
And only
unbelievable.
we can stop it. So, maybe as we talk about the key points that we're tracking all the time, right? Has leadership emerged? Not really.
Yeah,
There's maybe a couple people bubbling around the surface. We keep talking about Walls has popped up. Pritzker's been consistent. Bernie, AOC, Jasmine Crockett have been fantastic. Still searching for much beyond that. The
right.
message got muddled with the fuck up between the House and the Senate, but we did get at least a coalition on one side of the Congress,
And
and
we got clarity. I like
we
that
pray
word
for.
yesterday.
Yeah, we pray for a willingness to talk about social issues. We'll call them now living room issues that,
Right,
someone won't consider them third rail to talk about race, to talk about gender equality, to talk about LGBT rights, to stand up for people. It doesn't have to be something that the left walks away from. They should be embracing it now. Immigration, the classic third rail, no one ever wants to talk about. Why can't we
right,
embrace that? We're all immigrants, and we
right,
need immigrants, and it's what makes the country great. So, but maybe those two elements, pillars flounder, but maybe we're going to get some action. And if April
right.
5th becomes a big day with a lot of feet on the street making a lot of noise, I hope it gets kind of, contentious and aggressive. Um,
And remember what
that'll,
April 4th is. We can use this as a rallying cry for Black America as well. April 4th is an unceremonious anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. So, maybe we call everybody together and say, hey, this dream is still alive, right? We know who the devil is that's ruining the dream,
yeah,
right? Right? So we should all come together and protest the Mad King, as one unified coalition, right? Because together we are stronger. How about that for a message? Can we use that at some point? Together, meaning all of us, we are
yeah.
stronger.
I'm still waiting for them to trial balloon. Um, like we've talked about Crockett and maybe Crockett and Pritzker, Crockett and Liz Cheney and Kamala. Like, I want to see a black and white person getting out and barnstorming a little bit, and not just
Right,
talking about kitchen table issues, but like showing a unified face and talking about, these issues that, have been exploited by the right. Right?
right,
They've exploited it. They made DEI like a slur. They made the word woke like a slur. Like, these are bad things. They
and they're good at it.
they scared white America into thinking that these are things they should be fighting against
Right.
when
Right.
it's not where the country it's not where I think the country wants to be, the majority, but it's where we are, right?
Right.
We're marching to white supremacy when I don't think that's where the majority of the people are.
Right. And that's what the Republican Party has been good at since the 80s, since, media started being a big part of these political campaigns. Right? I mean, remember when crack cocaine came around? I mean, I was watching a lot of news at that time when we were in high school, our last couple of years in high school. And, the news, what the images that we saw of black men and women during the crack cocaine epidemic helped shape what white America now perceives black America to be, right? And we haven't lost that. Shows like Cops, right? The evening
Yeah.
news.
Fucking Law and Order. It's 30 years of Law and Order, right?
Yes. Yes. These are the
They call it
shows.
propaganda, right?
Exactly. And if scared white, remember what scared white America into the suburbs, right? I mean, that going back famously, the mayor of Detroit told white folks to hit 8 Mile, and they did. And they haven't come back. They've come back recently, but they still don't have the tax base that they once had. That beautiful city on the water has so much more potential. Dan Gilbert has come in and done a lot of revitalization, but it's still not what it could be. It still hasn't realized its full potential. And, there are some people taking CompuWare, another great company, taking advantage of, that revitalization. But again, still difficult to educate your kids in the city. Still difficult to find fresh food, groceries, still a lot of food deserts, right? And still a lot of problems that hamper urban areas. But, we can change all this if we work together, right? We can shut all this stuff down. Just
Another
like,
jump in another issue that's just lost any voice is like gun control, right?
oh,
Like and
oh,
there's a living room issue, right? You're not talking about AK-47s over dinner, right, at the kitchen table, but like yeah, gun control, which then ties into how absurdly horrendous our entire judicial and law enforcement systems are, right?
yeah,
We incarcerate people left and right. The whole idea of cash bail is a joke, right? It
right.
really just comes down how much money you have. If you have money,
Period.
you go free. If you don't have money, you stay in jail. What does that have to do with any? What does your economic system have anything to do with the way the judicial system should see you? Right? It just doesn't
Right.
make sense when we talk about it, but it's the reality of how America operates.
Right.
And these are like all these things like they tie together, but they're all white supremacy playbook. Like Project
Yeah.
2025 is exacerbating all these problems and moving us more and more into, like this white power movement. I just don't feel like the
Yeah.
majority of America is really there. But
No.
there is an aggressive, cohesive minority. And
Right.
that's who's running shit right now.
Right. And that's the problem, you know. They never splinter.
Never.
We always do. Right? And neither side really cares about pissing off the Democratic base, right? The Democrats don't care about pissing off the base, and the Republicans don't care about
Yeah.
pissing off the Democratic base. So, we're stuck there between a rock and a hard place, right? And that's how we end up with scenarios like yesterday, right? Where this bill gets, pushed through, and who knows what's in it, right? We're finding out as we go. They're talking about eliminating, the volcanic monitoring office in Alaska, and scientists have predicted that a volcanic eruption is imminent, right? You don't want to know about that ahead of time. Maybe the whole city of Anchorage might be a little concerned about that. We're getting rid of NOAA, right? These NOAA offices. We're cutting meteorologists left and where do you think people on the news every night get their information? Right? They're not researching this stuff. Right?
Pretty
You
soon
know?
it's gonna be like, oh, let's go to the weather.
Yeah.
Jane, the weather. And she's kind of like,
Let
yeah,
me look outside.
I stepped outside, John, and it's a little warm out there, and a couple of clouds seem to be rolling overhead. So there we
Back
are.
to you. Right. And back to you.
Tomorrow? I don't know.
Second weather
Flip a
cast.
coin. Could be warmer, could be colder. Who knows? Storm might be coming. Who knows?
Hey, take an umbrella just in case, folks, and maybe wear a helmet. You know, jeez.
It's
I mean,
absurd. We want to be in the dark. All right. I
yeah,
mean, that's where we are today. You gave me a glimmer of hope with the April 5th protests. You gave me a glimmer of hope that in New Jersey they stood up for, you know, improper incarceration, and at the
sure,
grassroots level there's people rallying for people.
right.
Um
Which is a great thing.
it's
You
a
know,
good,
we got
yeah,
to
it's
get
a
back.
great thing.
You always talk about neighborhood policing. How about neighborhooding, right? Neighbors getting to know each other once again, right? Not just waving at each other, thinking, I think that guy lives 3 or 4 houses down. Remember when we used to know each other in the neighborhood? I mean, what happened, right? Like now, it's like you barely know 2 houses down and 2 houses that way. What about that? What
Technology
about
happened, right?
being able to come together, and gather in places, together. And I still say, the church is the most segregated day of the week, right? Sundays, right? We're all in our own little,
Yeah.
religious cocoons. Never the two shall meet, and I know my mom's church did a great thing. They had a relationship with another predominantly white, Southern Baptist church, and they did visiting days, where their church would come to ours, our church would go to theirs, and you know,
Wow.
and yeah, and then you'd get to hear different kinds of messages, right? And you'd hear different perspectives.
Perspectives.
Word. Isn't that unique? Right? Imagine if we did that more than once every 6 months.
Yeah, now everyone's insulted when they hear something that they didn't hear before, or
Exactly.
don't agree with. All right, well
Exactly.
that's kind of some interesting stuff. Um, so I'll just
Sadness.
I'll
Got that
lob
from the
this out.
cold too.
You can edit this. You're the editor. So I don't know if this goes under my heading of a white guy thing to do, or if this is just like where other people in America are. But we're getting up early tomorrow morning and driving to Florida from New York. Yeah,
Okay.
wife has a business
Because you don't
trip.
want to fly?
Exactly. She was like, "There's no fucking way I'm getting on a plane with that guy from Road Rules in charge of shit." And he was like, "Hey, can you come with me?" Right? So I'm like, "Yeah, I have the flexibility to do that." So we're doing the drive because she's like,
From the car.
"Absolutely, absolutely no way am I getting in a plane." But the job doesn't stop, right? You still have to show
Right?
up places, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not so bad. I'll be in the dirty South
In the
because
dirty, dirty.
we're debating whether we're going to stop in Fayetteville, North Carolina,
Oh,
or Sumter, South Carolina.
okay. Okay. But hey,
Sumter, South Carolina.
I know.
I'm
Hey,
going to have to hide my Bernie Sanders t-shirts, right?
well, if you come 85, you can always stop here, get a free meal, get a good night's sleep.
I think we're doing 95. Thank you, but I think we're on a straight shot on 95
Okay.
to
All
get to
right. I just
Florida
wanted to offer.
to get to Ron DeSantis land for a couple days.
Oh,
And I just feel terrible about having to spend money in Florida because my
I
economic
know.
boycott, I'm going to have to eat something down there.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, I'm going to be dabbling in the South. So
Awesome. Love
I'm
it.
I'm
Well, safe
curious to
travels, my
see how
friend.
I feel that.
Yes, indeed. And
Uh,
let us know when you get to a place where you can broadcast from. I want to get your take
it's
on
gonna have to be
Florida.
in a bunker underground, tint the